Good evening, everyone. Can I have your attention, please? At this time, we would like to begin this evening's proceedings. We are asking you if you would like to sit, so kindly have a seat. We do have seats available in front. A warm welcome to each and every one of you. My name is Natasha Sutherland, and I serve as the president of the Black Social Work Student Alliance. On behalf of the Black Social Work Student Alliance and the University of Arlington School of Social Work, thank you for joining us for the Power of Presence, Black Identity in Professional Social Work. We are honored to host this event in recognition of Black History Month. This year holds special significance as we mark the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. Tonight's conversation centers Black voices, lived experiences, and leadership within social work. Conversation like this matters because they create a space for reflection, affirm identity, and remind us of the power of showing up authentically in our communities and our professions. We would like to extend our sincerest thanks to the Black History Month Task Force for their support and collaboration in making this event possible, and our wonderful panelists this evening, Ms. Derica Hall, Mr. Adam Powell, and Ms. Deborah Mitchell-Eby. We are honored to have tonight's conversation moderated by Dr. Jandel Crutchfield, an associate professor in the UTA School of Social Work. Dr. Crutchfield brings experience from school and community-based settings, and her scholarship focuses on reducing racial disparities in education and other helping professions. We are grateful for her leadership and guidance this evening. Once again, welcome. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. For those of you joining us online, please note that this presentation is not interactive and will not include a live Q&A. For our in-person guests, restrooms are located down the hallway to your left, at the back of you. At the end of the event, a QR code will be shared for a brief survey. Completion of this survey is required to receive CEU certificates, which will be emailed within the next week. Thank you again for being here and for engaging in this important conversation. I'll now turn you over to Dr. Crutchfield to begin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha. All right, welcome everybody. So usually, the way I like to get started is to see who is in the building. So we're gonna call you in to our panel today. So I want you guys, if you're able to, stand whatever group you belong in. So if you are faculty staff in the UTA School of Social Work, stand up for me. Yay! Thank y'all for being here. Yeah, you didn't know you were gonna get to stand up. All right, if you were UTA Social Work student, stand up for us. All right, students, woo! Here we go. If you are part of the larger community around UTA, would you please stand? So if you didn't fit into the other categories, love it. All right. And so if you are here to support Black History Month, stand. That should be everybody. Everybody up. All right. Love it. All right. Welcome. 100 years, everybody, the centennial of Black History Month. You are in this place for such a time as this, and so I want to welcome you to the Power of Presence. We're going to have a conversation this evening, and hopefully we'll be able to hear questions from you as well. So I hope you guys are ready to tune in to see what our great panelists have to say. So let's talk more about our panelists and see who we have here. All right, so I'm going to introduce Ms. Darika Hall. Will you wave your hand again to everybody? All right, so Darika Davis Hall is a licensed clinical social worker and a Doctor of Social Work candidate at the University of Kentucky. She serves as the director of the Social Work Academy at Dallas College, where she oversees associate degree and certificate programs in social work, substance use counseling, and gerontology. Hall brings experience across child welfare, law enforcement social work, and K-12 education, and continues to practice clinically while teaching as an adjunct. Ms. Hall is busy, y'all. She earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from Texas Women's University and her Master of Social Work from UTA. Her professional interests center on strengthening school social work practice, advancing statewide standards, and reducing racial disparities in public education systems. We are sister friends in that way. Everybody clap for Ms. Hall. All right, and sitting next to Ms. Hall is Mr. Adam Powell. Welcome. Adam Powell is president and CEO of United Way of Tarrant County, a nonprofit organization that we know has served the region for more than 100 years, another centennial. He previously served as president and CEO of Communities and Schools of the Dallas region, where he expanded organizational impact and significantly increased revenue to better support students and families across North Texas. Powell brings more than 20 years of experience in nonprofit leadership with a focus on strategic growth, organizational development, and cross-sector partnerships. He earned a bachelor's degree in mass communications from Jackson State University, a Master of Social Work from UTA, and is currently pursuing an Ed.D. in Leadership and Innovation at Purdue University. Welcome, Mr. Powell. Let's clap for Mr. Powell, everybody. So you have a school connection as well. And next we have our final panelist, Ms. Deborah Mitchell-Ebay. Hey, everybody. All right. Deborah Mitchell-Ebay has over 25 years of experience working with families in crisis. So her background includes various direct service and leadership roles. Currently, Mitchell-Ebay serves as the executive program director for residential services at Denton County Friends of the Family. She also provides clinical social work services through Spring Health. She holds a Master of Social Work from, guess where? UTA Social Work, and is a licensed clinical social work supervisor in Texas. So let's give her a round of applause as well. We welcome you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you, audience, in advance for your time. And so we are going to jump right in. Again, panelists, this can be popcorn style. If you all want to answer every question, we're happy to hear from you as well. So you have a mic there, and all you have to do is push it up to be able to talk. So let's jump into it. When you hear the phrase, power of presence, what does that mean to you as a Black social worker? The power of presence. Who wants to start us off?
I'll start us off.
Davis. All right.
So the power of presence to me means more than just showing up. So it means being my most authentic self, connecting with and empowering all clients that I come in contact with, that my presence affects, and it goes farther than just being on time and being accountable. It really is truly showing them exactly who I am and empowering them as well.
Great, thank you so much.
Well, she stole my answer for one. But the first word that always pops in my mind is authenticity. It's showing up, being the real, truest, best version of yourself. And I think that's sometimes really difficult, particularly given this current environment. I'll tell you guys a quick story from 21-ish years ago. She mentioned my undergraduate degrees in communication. So my first job out of college was actually in radio. So I worked at a radio station, and my first week on the job, now for some context, I am from Alabama. I've listened to hip hop my entire life. Like if you get in my car now, that is what you are likely to hear. But it is a genre of music that can be offensive to some people, right, if you don't consume it that way. And I remember getting in my car, going there the first day of work, and my boss, who is at the time 63 years old, 63-year-old white man, says, hey, I want to take you to lunch. Well, I'm poor at the time. I'm going to take this free lunch because that's what I'm going to do. And he walks out to my car and he says, can I ride with you? Now, this is 20-something years ago. This is before streaming music. This is when you got the CDs in there. And when you cut the car on, whatever you were listening to, right, that's what he's going to hear, at least for the first 3 to 5 seconds until I can hit stop, right? And I remember I think about that day a lot, because when we think about what it means to, like, the power of presence, and I use the word authenticity, that is who I am, right? And that was uncomfortable for me. I'm sure it was uncomfortable for him as well. We never talked about it again. But it was one of those things that really made me, like, think consciously over the next 20 years about, like, who am I? Like, what is the most real, most authentic, most down-to-earth version of myself? And some of that is going to be, palatable to a lot of people, and some of it is not going to be, right? And I have to be okay with that space. And to me, that's what the power of presence means, is really, really understanding who you are at your core and being the most authentic version of yourself.
Great, thank you. I think for some of our students, we need to make sure you guys know what a CD is. CD, yeah, or some of the younger people in the audience. Hopefully they do. All right, Ms. Ibe.
I think for me, the power of presence, I have to look at generational blessings. I come from a line of educators, and I am one that truly believes that you carry your generations with you. So in carrying those line of educators, my grandmother was a teacher, and she was at Tillman College University, which is now Houston Tillman, and it was created to educate, give teachers degrees to educate Black people. And so when I think of my power of presence, it's carrying that generation forward, and as a social worker, not only teaching Black people, but teaching people. And I also think it's looking at, and it's one of the things I tell my kids, is that you have to know what you stand for when the world is against you. So it's not always being pleasant. It's not always having people like you, but knowing who you are and what you stand for and what are those generational blessings that you need to use going forward.
Great, thank you. So a lot of what you all said to be probably can be categorized in terms of the difference we see in visibility versus engagement, right? And so being seen is not the same as actually showing up as your authentic self. So thank you for that prompt, that introduction. So audience, we're going to talk about identity and presence. We're going to talk about professional navigation and systems, resilience, joy, and community. And then we're going to look at the future and a call to action before we close. So we're moving into talking about identity and professional self. And so for you guys, how has your Black identity shaped the way you show up in professional social work spaces? And so I know you guys have given examples. Mr. Powell, you definitely gave an example with hip hop, but are there aspects of your identity you felt pressure to minimize or to over-explain? Who would like to share?
Yeah, I think so 2 jobs ago, I ran the internal operations for an organization that was based out of Minneapolis. And I left that role about 4 months before the George Floyd incident. Again, for some context, I'm from Alabama. My dad was a police officer growing up. My dad was a police officer for 27 years. He's 72 years old to this day. If you introduce yourself to him, before he tells you his name, he tells you he was a police officer. He's that dude, right? And so the first 3, 4, 5 years of my life, like, that was the lens that I saw policing through, was that's what my dad did. And all of his friends that were police officers would come to the house. So my initial interaction with the police was appreciably different than what it might have been for a lot of people that look like me, right? Then you get older, you have your own experiences, and you realize that, 2 things can be true, that, right, policing can be a field that is noble and professional and all the things, and it's also okay to say there are problems between policing and Black communities, right? Both of those things can be true. And I was put in positions, particularly after George Floyd, to sit on panels and answer questions about like my view on policing or my view on policing, particularly in black communities, because folks know kind of this backstory. And it's probably the first time in my career where I genuinely felt like, irrespective of what was true, right, in terms of my identity, it was going to be misperceived, right? Because we've created this kind of chasm where you're on one side or the other. Either you are pro-police or you're pro-Black Lives Matter, and I don't think that is necessarily true. I think both two things can be true, right? And so that was the most recent, I'd say, and probably the first time for me, where I felt like I was put into a position where I had to answer questions and really parse words and not maybe be the most authentic version of myself, knowing that the people looking at me, whoever those folks were at that moment, were expecting me to be something else. And I think that is something that I think at some point in our careers we're all going to have to deal with and learn to have to navigate.
Correct. Anybody else want to share on that question?
Share. Two things come to mind when I think about that question. It relates to my colleagues and then also relating to leadership. So when I was in the first beginning in the field, I was young. I still look young. Okay. I was very young, and every job that I've had prior to coming into the field of social work, I quickly rose to leadership positions, leadership responsibilities. And that's hard, leading others that are older than you. That's hard leading others that don't look like you. But knowing that you possess the qualities needed to lead. And in my first role as a social worker, one of the things that I suppressed in regards to my colleagues, it would be my leadership qualities. I felt that I had to mold myself and fit in with those that were of my generation. So there are a lot of things that a lot of opportunities that I turned down, a lot of tasks that I pretended I didn't know how to do in order to fit in. And when it comes to leadership, there was a lot of things that, we carry biases around with us. You see me and you see that I'm a black woman. It is, I can't hide that. And that's a lot that comes with that. There's things that people, when they look at me, they expect me to speak a certain way. They expect me to dress a certain way. They expect me to act a certain way. And when I go against that, it's, oh, wow, you speak well for a black girl. You speak really well. Or, oh, wow, you were a leader, you're a supervisor in this agency? Yes, I am. And there's a lot of things that I had to, that I was suppressing and overcoming in order to make sure that I didn't fit those stereotypes that people might have of me. And I'm still navigating that. I'm over the hump, but still there are situations to where I have to have inner talks with myself. That I deserve to be here. I bring a lot to the table. I am great. And there's no need to suppress anything, no abilities, anything that I can do. Something as great as everyone else, if not better than everyone else, to my own horn.
I like that. If not better than everybody else. All right, Ms. Mitchell-Ebay.
When I think of my black identity, I think of, I'm from a little town in East Texas called Paris, Texas. Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
knows where Paris is. Where's Paris? Y'all know Paris.
I think of how, first, as you say, when you walk into a room, you already know that you're black. That's not going to change. And I think that growing up in a small town, you also, or anywhere, you also begin to learn to read the room and who's in the room and who's not in the room. But I also think of a part of my black identity that kind of forms how I want to show up as a social worker is, and most of y'all are probably too young to remember these things, that part of the social work profession at one time, when individuals lived in housing developments, and it used to be housing developments were formed for families that were intact to live in. And then it became, why do we need to have families that are intact live in housing developments? It just need to be single people without children. And so to me, that's one of the things that start tearing apart the black family. Because I remember growing up in Paris, Texas, and living in projects was a good place to live. Because families lived there, it was good. Then social change happened, and the projects became bad, and it was only for single people. And as a social worker and as a black social worker, I see my job and my role is to be there for all people. I'm not looking in no closets. I'm taking your word for what it is, and I want to affirm you as a person. Because my blackness is only part of me, like whatever color you are is only one part of you. And we have to take all those pieces together to form and look at how do I walk into the room and not just look to see who's in the room.
Great. So from Mr. Powell, it sounds like the pressure to conform was based on your background. And from Ms. Davis, pressure to conform, kind of this duality, either or. And from expectations based on age, so that intersectionality there. And then from Ms. Mitchell-Ebay, kind of pressure from a profession that can sometimes have you push clients into a certain direction or determine a certain outcome for them. So definitely pressures in lots of different ways. And so you guys have talked about authenticity and showing up. And so I want you guys to go a little bit further in terms of talking to us about protecting yourselves, you're advocating for yourself when you have to show up in an authentic way, but also consider professionalism. And so if you see those things as the same, as different, talk to us about any examples you have, how you balance that showing up authentically versus professionalism in spaces that weren't really necessarily built for Black Americans.
Okay, so I'll take it. I was born and raised in Faraday, Louisiana, and Natchez, Mississippi. So 2 small towns. Faraday, Louisiana is not on the map. We're known for a lot of things that you might think we're known for. Teen pregnancy is rampant. Low SES status, low educational levels. And when we moved to Texas, I was exposed to a lot of different things, a lot of different cultures. Not the first time I saw other people, but of the magnitude, yes. In my small town, everyone looks the same. There's still sections where we're segregated. So, of course, my diction is a little different. Slang was a part of who I am, who I was, what I am. And so that's my authentic self. And that can be frowned upon professionally, right? We're expected to speak a certain way when we're representing an organization. We're expected to turn off, code switch, when we walk into certain rooms, when we're at certain positions or have certain powers attached to the title that we have or the position that we're in. And that's kind of what I struggled with. And it got a little easier because in my hometown, I'm not Derica Davis Hall. I go by a whole completely different nickname, and that made it easy for me because when I walk into work, I am Derica Davis Hall. When I am home, I am Shay. And that helped me separate the two. So from small town, product of a teen pregnancy, and that I think that's my answer to that question. It's definitely an internal battle, and it's definitely something that I recognize as there's a difference. It is not the same for me.
Thank you.
A similar answer. Again, as I mentioned, I'm from Alabama and have lived most of my adult life now here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And whenever someone from Alabama that I know, it's like, hey, I'm going to be in Dallas for something, I am immediately terrified because the person that they know is appreciably different from the person I am here. Now, whether that's good or not, I have no idea. But what I will say is I think that is kind of par for the course, I think, for most black professionals. And I think it's, at least for me, has been a career-long and will likely be a lifelong struggle. It makes me think about if anyone's ever read any of W.B. Du Bois's work, the double consciousness, right? This idea of how I see myself in my most authentic, organic state, juxtaposed to how I have to see myself and how I have to be, to maintain a level of professionalism as defined by whomever. So I think it's a struggle that most of us, I think, professionally that are black deal with and try to navigate as best as we can. But the thing that I would tell people is, and this is part of what I struggle with and intimated this earlier, all of that is authentically you, right? Like we like to think of it as I'm selling out, or I know we use the word like code switching or some of these things. No, I am authentically a dude that loves trap music. I am also authentically a dude who is a pretty good CEO. And two things can be true, and you can be both of those things.
Somebody else is a fan too. All right.
There's a saying that says, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. And that's, when I look at being my authentic or my professional self, you change in certain environments, then something happens or you interact with somebody and that changes you. And as you say, all that is part of who we are, It's just part of who we are and what you have to do. But I can say that my professional and private self are not different. The only time I turn different is when somebody tried to call me Debbie. And I was like, I am not a Debbie. That is not me.
Right. Thank you all so much. So this is definitely a topic of many throughout the years, Black History Month panels. And so, Ms. Mitchell, Ibe, I like what you said, is that they don't necessarily have to be different, right? Your authentic self can make you a better CEO. Your authentic self can make you a better professional social worker, or whatever is the job that you have. And so showing up in that way. Thank you all. So we're going to talk about systems and power and practice. And so I'm going to combine two of these questions because they are similar. I think one is a symptom of the other. And so we think about racism, and we specifically are talking about anti-Black racism. So how does anti-Black racism show up subtly or overtly in social workspaces, and what helps you stay grounded in those moments? And I think one of the ways potentially that shows up is part of another question where we're expected to be the voice for all Black people in a certain area. So you can talk about that as an example, but the question again, how does anti-Black racism show up subtly or overtly in social workspaces? And what helps you stay grounded in those moments?
So I'm 42 years old. My first leadership job was way too early. I was not ready, but I was 24. So 18 years, I guess it's 18 years. I've had an opportunity to be able to interview people and, hire folks, terminate folks, all the things. So probably interviewed over hundreds of people at this point throughout my career. And one of the things that I've always noticed, I've seen this anecdotally, there's probably some data behind it as well, is you can take two people, and I see it happen when I sit on committees all the time. You can take two people with comparable experiences, in some cases the same exact experience, and one of them is, and for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to say Black woman, because this happens a lot with Black women more so than I think with Black men. I have a Black woman and someone that is white woman, white man, Asian man, fill in the blank with some other demographic group, and people tend to feel more comfortable hiring the other person. Right? Now, again, this is 18 years worth of evidence. I promise you this is a real thing. It happens all the time. And that is a space where I feel pretty clearly you see kind of the anti-Black sentiment show up. Because again, resumes, at least in theory, should be the great meritocracy, right? Like if you've done X, Y, Z, and this other person has done X, Y, Z, and you are fairly comparable. In some cases, you'll even see it where, again, Black women's qualifications exceed those of other folks, but there's some level of discomfort because maybe she didn't wear a dress that I liked, or maybe her name is something that I'm uncomfortable with, whatever it might be. And I think that happens probably is more pronounced than I think we talk about explicitly out loud.
Wait. So remember now, we're talking about social workspaces, social work. We all like social justice. We got it down, don't we, as social workers? We don't need to change. We have everything perfect in social work, don't we? Come on. Okay, so remember, we're talking about even in social workspaces where our core values and ethics talk about anti-racism. So you're saying this even is in social workspaces?
These are, by the way, I should have prefaced that. These are all social
workspaces.
Right, no Fortune 500 companies here. But it's a real thing, and it's something that we should spend more time talking about. And I think institutions, organizations, leaders have to be more intentional about how we think about the hiring process when we're hiring and promoting folks.
Thanks.
Well, I want to issue a challenge to you all. I want you to go and pick out 10 of your favorite nonprofits in the DFW Metroplex and think about the client population that those 10 nonprofits serve and see what diversity you find at the top and in the middle. And that's nonprofit as in social work, nonprofit as in you choose one. So I want you to challenge you to take a look and see and come up with your own answer on what that looks like. Because what you see here, when we talk about management and in management, it's not happening. It's not happening. So go investigate, then answer the question. Why does leadership not look like the population that it serves? Because when you talk about diversity is not taking a class. Diversity is happening when you have different people together in an organization that have different worldviews and can help each other learn and can help the client and can challenge each other and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you need to look at it this way rather than that way. Challenge yourself. Pick out your 10 favorite.
So, Ms. Mitchell-Ebe, it sounds like you're saying there's some value, and so I want you to talk more about that. Because why? Why would it matter what the leadership looks like? Why would it be important for the leadership to look like?
I think that what I said, because when we talk about diversity of thought, and diversity of thought to me is really important, and because and what I believe as a leader is that we don't all have to agree, but we all have to decide what path we're going. And if everybody look like me, then okay, we know what path we're going, we know what to decide we're doing. And that might not be in a social work setting the best interest of the client. If you work in an organization that is a social service organization, if you've been an intern in an organization, think about some of those conversations. Think about some of those conversations were different because you added to the conversation and you added a different flavor to the conversation. Diversity of thought, diversity is just not a class. It's not a class. It's about looking at the top and the bottom and the middle, and everybody's diverse. Because I'm not talking about hiring out black people. I'm talking about diversity.
Okay, thanks. She said just one thing. All right, Ms. Davis.
DEI is not a concept that can be removed.
All right. Now how are you going to say that one thing? We need you to follow up now. DEI is not a concept that can be removed. And so Ms. Davis will share more about that. Go ahead.
But, okay, you got me on one of my house topics. House topics. But, you know, one of the things when we talk about DEI, for me is, and I'm old, and all these people probably put together, is I don't know anyone, because, you know, one of the things that I land on is my observation reality. You can read whatever in the paper. Let me read observation reality. Let me talk to my friends. Let me go somewhere and look at something with it. I don't know no one in my career that got a job because they were black and were able to keep that job and be incompetent and black? Do you all know anybody? So when we talk about DEI, it's getting twisted, and it ain't just black people. That's what is twisted with DEI. It's not about giving people jobs and they can't do the job, so they keep the job. People get fired every day. Is that right? Every day, because they can't do their job.
Yes, ma'am. So you're talking about the misinterpretation and misuse of the term DEI. Yes, and hopefully in social workspaces we get it, right? Diversity is a fact because we exist in a diverse world. Did you want to follow up on your comment, or are you just going to let it stand? She's going to let it stand. Say it one more time for me.
DEI is not a concept that can be removed.
Okay.
We're not ending DEI.
All right, there you have it. You heard it here first. All right. So we are going to move into talking about resilience, which all of you have had to have in order to continually to persist in your careers. Resilience, joy, and collective care. And so we're going to talk about, in the face of anti-black racism, rollbacks of DEI, etc., what is sustaining you as a black social worker, especially in emotionally taxing or predominantly white spaces? So things like mentors, community, spirituality, those types of things. Please share with us what has worked for you, what you would hope to do, what hasn't worked.
What has worked for me? So I remember taking a course at UTA, and I don't remember the professor that was teaching the course, but I remember she harped on one thing. One thing I remember from her class was get a mentor. Get a mentor. And I was like, well, who will that be? I want someone that has gone through the things that I've gone, understands me in that way. And I found a mentor, shout out to Dr. Alford. She has been wonderful to my career, wonderful to me personally. She's a social worker, a black woman social worker. And she has truly helped me navigate leadership. She's helped me navigate moving up the chain of responsibility, the chains of just the different levels in my career. She has truly helped me navigate that. So to all the students out there, if you don't have a mentor, I encourage you, get a mentor. Get someone that has lived through the things that you will be going through. It makes a difference. It truly does. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to, for the first time, go through all of these things by yourself. We have lived it. We've done it. We've made the mistakes. Find a mentor that can help you navigate that so you can get to where we are quicker, get to where we are sooner, because we're needed in these spaces. We are needed in these positions. So definitely I would say a mentor is what's my key to success.
Great, thank you. Mr. Powell.
Man, you got to find something outside of work. This stuff will, and I am guilty of it, it will consume you. I was, as she was talking, I was thinking, I can't think of not that I know all the roles in America, but I can't think of a job or a role or a career that is more taxing. Maybe teachers would argue, the education, right? But than social work. I just don't know if it exists. And you're talking about like child protective services. We're talking about people that are working with, marginalized communities. We're talking about working with women that have been, it just the list goes on and on. It is incredibly taxing. My advice is find something that you can gravitate to outside of work. And everybody has to have something, right? Somebody told me this a long time ago that you've got 3 currencies in life. You've got knowledge, you've got time, and you've got money. Those are the 3 currencies you've got, right? And everything that you do, if you just think about it from a kind of career perspective, you use any 2 of those at any moment to get to the 3rd, right? You use time, knowledge, and time to get money. You use time and money to get knowledge, and so on and so on, right? And the only thing I would add to that is use your currencies wisely, and find something outside of whatever it is you do to make money. Right? If you want to throw 60, 70, 80 hours a week into your job, we've all probably done it, that's fine. It will consume you, and it will matter over time. As you get older, you get into 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, like it will take a toll on you. So for me, I'll just tell you, and don't laugh at me when I tell you this, a couple of hours, whether it's a day, a week, whatever, outside of this, because this work will consume you if you allow it to.
All right.
I think the top of my list is having a supportive family. And I think my kids are here.
Way back there, they're waving. Her kids are here.
It's having a supportive family. I say my unique place in life is that I'm the sister to only brothers, the mother to only sons, and the grandmother to the most wonderful, my son is gonna laugh, grandson that is in the world. But I also I have supervised social work interns, so I had talked with them about the questions, and I asked them about that, and they said, it was so important for them to walk into, they just both happen to be African American, and to walk into spaces and see black people. And I'm like, okay, God, that's what I'm here for again, is to help people to stay grounded and to stay focused with it. And I think the other piece of it is if you go too long in this work and you don't have a story that moves you, then you've gone too long in this work. And having the story that still moves me to action, moves me to compassion, is really important. And it's not about people pouring out and telling me that story, because you never know what piece of it is going to get you. And like I was talking to a client right quickly, and what got me was she talked about her 21-year-old son who was trying to make it out, got ran over by a car and died. And I was like, I'm a mother. I said, I can't go no further in your story because of that. It was just really overwhelming to think that what happens to people, and they got to pick up and keep going. So that's what keeps me, my family, the interns, and the stories are really important to me.
Great. 3 different ways to keep going in some of these spaces. Ms. Mitchell-Ebay, I think probably the only disagreement, you said you had the most wonderful grandson, and so my mom is here, and I think she might disagree with you. My son is probably, to her, the most wonderful grandson, but I digress, so here we go. So we're kind of continuing in that vein and talking about resistance, or talking about mentorship, and talking about doing things outside of work, having community, having family. But this concept of rest has become, I think, a central point of Black initiatives here within the last few years. And so for a profession like social work that often glorifies burnout, right? We have whole trainings and lessons about burnout because that's the work that we do can be heavy work. And so we talk about that a lot, and it's almost sometimes like it's glorified. So how do you define for yourself what rest looks like as a social worker?
The existential question for me every day is, for the last 20 plus years, I've been lucky to love what I do. The question is, do I want to go into the office today? That has always been the question for me. And generally, I'm high energy, and unequivocally, the answer is usually yes.
He said he's high energy. Is that track? That's tracks, right? Yeah, he looks like he's high energy. But
there have been days and times where it's like, I just can't today. Like, I just don't want to deal with fill in the blank, whatever problem is. And that's usually, for me, my yellow light for me to like take a step back, go play some pickleball, or do whatever I need to do to kind of rest and kind of get away from kind of the mundane of day-to-day operating. I would encourage people to know kind of what your signs and symptoms are, because they exist in everybody, whether you acknowledge it or not. But there are things, your check engine light will go off, right, or at least start to flash a little bit, occasionally. Once you start to get to that point where it may be time to take some time away, maybe it's time to career check, do something else, whatever it might be. But I would encourage you to be in tune with your body enough to know kind of what those red flags are. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's emotional, whatever it might be. You got to know that for yourself. But it's critically important for the sustainability and the longevity of what you want to do, to be able to, when that check engine light comes on, that you know and you take the appropriate action.
Got it. Who's next? Rest. Defining rest in the profession of social work, if that exists.
Well, okay. I think that you got to be able to pay for rest. So part of what I think that as a profession is demand that we get paid enough so that we can rest. That we are a profession, we work hard for our credentials, and we deserve a paycheck that is equitable and above like everyone else. So for me, it is knowing the signs of burnout, but when you know the signs of burnout and you're still working 2 jobs, you still got to go to one of them. So we need to demand that we get paid for one of my interns talk about this. They talk about, we're doing an internship, we're not getting paid for it, and we think we need to get paid. And I don't disagree with them. So for me, it's rest and knowing the burnout signs, but also how do I advocate for my staff? How do I advocate for myself so that if they want to do something, to go somewhere or buy something for rest, that they're getting paid what they deserve so that they can do those things.
All right, so making rest possible. As long as in your advocacy, you also are finding time to rest. Ms. Mitchell-Ebay, I don't know if you really answered my question about rest. It sounds like you made yourself work some more. See, so the kids are saying that you don't rest. Okay, all right. But that is a real question about social work and the value of social work, and why sometimes burnout is frequently associated with the profession. Could be our pay. So thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so rest for me today looks different than when I was first in the field. So I love a challenge. So if you tell me I won't accomplish anything or this is kind of impossible, I'm going to take it and I'm going to do the impossible, at least try. I wanted to be the first one in my immediate family to, air quotes, going up, make it out. I wanted to be the first doctor. I'm going to have the first master's degree. I'm going to set the bar for the next generation of my family. And I got into the master's program. I was told, it's very rare that social workers, that, there really aren't any 6-figure social workers. They don't exist. We're in it for the outcome and not the income. And to me, why can't we have both? Why can't we do great work and advocate for change and still get paid a living wage? And so I put that on my back and I said, no, I think I'm gonna fix that for the generation that comes after me of social workers. And so I made it. And I thought, well, what's next? I have a 3-year-old now. So that's what rest is for me. Advocate, she's gonna make sure I'll try to get rest. But it means really taking a look at systems, what systems are in place. It's not just me making it to the top, but what can I do to pull everybody up with me? And that's the type of person that I am. And I haven't rested yet because there are not that many 6-figure social workers. We need more. That's my charge, and that's what I'm taking on and helping everyone realize. We advocate for clients, we advocate for system changes, we advocate for laws and policy. Why do we struggle to advocate for our own selves? And so I hope that sits with everyone, and we can learn to do our part in making sure that, like Ms. Ebay said, we are paid a living wage, not just a few of us, but all of us.
All right, so Ms. Davis, it also sounds like you're working to get rest. So I'll accept those answers. So I think they introduced me. I am a professor, so I would give like partial credit for that. But it is a profession where, again, there's always a cause, and so you have seen demonstrated here that it really is a concept, especially as Black social workers, when we have so many things that are popping up for us in our communities to be able to rest. All right, so we are going to look forward to the future. You guys have shared a lot of wisdom already. Ms. Mitchell-Ebe has already done a call to action on looking up those nonprofits, but we are going to do more of that. And so some of you guys have already talked to our students out here, our early career professionals. What do you want them to know about their own presence and power? So now we get to speak into the audience now. What do you want our young students and our early career professionals or anybody in the audience to know about their presence and their power?
Your presence is critical. It's needed. And I struggled trying to figure out if I belonged, right? Am I deserving of certain positions? Do I meet all the qualifications for others? I started looking at myself and say, there might be other people that are way more qualified. And that's okay to have those moments, but then stop and look in the mirror and say to yourself, I deserve to be here. I need to be here. It is critical that I'm here in this moment to help those that might have gone through something that you've went through, that are going through something that you're currently going through, that might look like you or might not, but you're needed. Don't let anybody tell you we have enough social workers. It's saturated. There's so many. We're in a mental health crisis right now. You are needed, and your presence is critical.
Thanks. Needed, critical. Yes, sir.
I was going to use the word required, but once again, she kind of beat me to it.
Great minds think alike.
It's required. The only other thing I'll add is I think you are infinitely more powerful than I think you believe you probably are for most people, right? I've been incredibly blessed in my career to sit across from a lot of people that we deem to be really, really smart and successful and all over the country doing a bunch of work. And someone asked me, I was in Florida for something a couple weeks ago, and somebody asked me what would be my one takeaway. And I hand on the Bible. This is not something I'm telling this group just to say it. They are not as smart as you think they are. I promise you, whatever you think, it is not that. You are equally as qualified, you are equally as competent, you are equally as talented, if not more, in most cases, than the folks that you are looking at and looking up to, whether it be just in the social work profession or beyond. So I would tell you to act on that, right? Never be fearful about taking that next step, whatever that next step might be, because I promise you there is someone out there doing it that is less talented, less prepared, less smart, less competent, less whatever than you are. So I would say, take the next step and don't be afraid to do that.
Love it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have three things. My husband is Nigerian, and so there's a Nigerian author called, I'm gonna get her name wrong, because even though we've been married forever, I still can't pronounce names. Chimi Ngozi Adichie, and she has a TED Talk that she does, and she talks about the danger of a single story. The danger of not just looking through the world just through your worldview. And so I challenge you that part of it is you need to keep learning. Keep looking at the world through different eyes. Keep having those conversations with people who don't look like you, but keep having those conversations, keep learning. The second thing that I would say is don't get caught up in a title, because that title can change in a matter of hours. So don't make that title who you are. Make your work who you are. Because my last thing is guard your name and your reputation. Because that's what people are going to remember. How did you work? What was your reputation? Did they keep their word? Guard your name and your reputation. Keep it close. And also challenge yourself with that name and the reputation. Am I adding value or am I adding to the mess?
I love it. So I'll add a quote as well. So we have, you are critical, you're required, you need to add value. And so some of you guys that know me know the earrings I wear that say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And so all of you are the dreams of your ancestors. And that, in and of itself, your presence in the world today in 2026 gives you power from your ancestors. So own that, embrace that. All right, so we are going to begin to wrap up. We have 2 questions left. And so we're shifting. We've been talking a lot about ourselves and how we're resilient, how we have joy. And so we're going to switch a little bit to talking about institutions. So the places we work, the places we learn. What do you guys think the responsibility is of institutions and our non-Black colleagues to create spaces where our presence, Black presence, is not just tolerated but valued? So I'll read that question again. What responsibility do institutions and our non-Black colleagues have in creating spaces where Black presence is not just tolerated but valued?
I would answer that this way. It is more required than even it is from people that identify as being Black. I think institutions historically and individuals that are non-Black have as much, if not more, of a responsibility to ensure that we are setting up systems, that we are putting together processes that not only center but uplift Black identity. I think if you just think about, we could go through all the social ills that exist, and they're all historical in nature. Right, like there is a responsibility, I think, of people and institutions, as a person that runs an institution, to rectify that. That is our responsibility as much as it is, any Black person that's out there, right? Now, I'll acknowledge the fact that's incredibly difficult in different environments, and certainly this current kind of political climate. I think that is difficult to do, but I do think it's incumbent upon leaders. I hold myself accountable for this, as well as others, to meet the demand and to be willing to stand up to what is in some cases going to be incredibly difficult opposition. And you have to do that in a lot of different ways. You have to be savvy about how you do it, and you have to be thoughtful and in terms of how you move and do that. But we do all have a responsibility to do that, institutions and non-Black people.
Yeah, so it sounds like one thing is just to acknowledge it's your responsibility. A lot of institutions do not. Yes.
All right, so who knows the saying? We have to get half of what everyone else receives. So we all know we have to work hard. We have to bring credentials to the table. We have to bring experience and knowledge to the table. To our non-Black colleagues, we know this, and we know we have to strive for so much more than everyone else. So the knowledge that we bring is valuable. Know that it's valuable more so than just February 1st through February 28th. Right? Ask us throughout the year. We still have that knowledge. We don't want our voices to be heard just for the month of February. We are still as smart and as capable in January, March through December. We bring a lot to the table, and we know we have to bring more to the table at times. So definitely value our voices. Ask us. We don't represent, one person doesn't represent all Black people, but we bring a lot to the table. And then we bring a lot to the table, not just in February.
Great point. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Mitchell-Ebe.
When I think of this, the responsibility do institutions have, and looking at how a rhetoric has been created that slavery was good for Black people, I think what institutions have to do is recognize and challenge themselves to tell a story. Not take down history because you don't want to face history. History teaches us sometimes that we don't repeat history. So just because you took it down don't mean it didn't happen. It does not mean that. So part of it for me is two things: is having a seat at the table is important, but what's more important, because things happen when we're not in the room, is who's speaking up for me when I'm not in the room? Who's brave enough to do that? To speak up for wrong when I'm not in the room? Who can speak up for right? Because we have conversations in families, we have conversations at work, we have conversations, and with the national rhetoric the way it is, when we're not in the room, who's speaking up for the facts of it? And not trying to change history, but learn from history so that we can have a better place.
Great. So some of what I hear you guys in summary is talking about the talent, the knowledge, the education, the skill of Black workers, Black students. And so to Ms. Mitchell-Ebay's point in knowing that you need to be in the room, and I loved how you said making sure that people speak up for us when we're not in the room. It reminds me of the concept of sponsorship, right, versus mentorship. So mentors are teaching us, they're giving us information. A sponsor is saying, you know what? Obviously, Ms. Davis is qualified. You are going to get this opportunity. When you have the privilege to have opportunities to give and share, consider your Black student, your Black colleague, your Black client or community member. All right, y'all, so it's the final prompt, the final question. So in your closing reflection, you are just completing the sentence. So y'all have dropped a lot of knowledge already. So this is your mic drop moment. Are y'all ready? You have to actually stand up and drop them. No, I'm just joking. All right, so complete this sentence. The power of my presence as a Black social worker is. The power of my presence as a Black social worker is. One word, two, not 25.
Just have one. Legendary.
Oh, legendary. Come on.
Powerful.
Powerful.
The future.
The future. All right, I love it. All right, everybody, let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Way to go. Amazing. I have really enjoyed getting to know you all through your thoughts and conversation. I know your agencies are really blessed to have you. Your talent, your insight there. And so I just want to say congratulations, UTA School of Social Work, to the Social Work Black Student Alliance. And I think this new committee, this new task force, the Black History Month Task Force, job well done, everybody. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes. All right, thank you all for supporting this event. It's been such a great turnout, and so I will wrap up by talking about your CEUs. If you are earning them tonight, there should be some QR codes coming around the room, and so you'll scan those QR codes. So maybe one will be on the screen here. And so you'll have to put in a code word, and the code word is panel, PANEL. So if you're a student, you have to fill in your instructor's name, and we'll let the instructor know that you attended tonight. So I see some of my students in the audience. Shout out to diverse populations. All right, so here are the QR codes coming around. So you're gonna scan those if you want that 1.5 hour CEU. The code word again is panel, PANEL. Did we have any, Menger? I don't know if we had any time for questions from the audience. What time is it? It's supposed to be, yeah, that's what I was asking. I don't know if we have time. Okay, all right, so as you guys are doing that, we wanted to see if there were questions from the audience to our panelists tonight. So we already have a hand up. And so we'll try to get a mic over to you as you guys are making sure that you fill out that CEU QR code. So here's a question from the audience.
Hi, so I have a question. I don't know if you want me to come out here or stay here.
You can stay there.
I have a question. I liked how you guys were talking about the 3 things that you need to keep, fortified during being a social worker. And I know that one said mentor, your time, and family. But what do you have to say for people that have trouble finding mentors and don't have family support? What are some advice that you can give them to keep going and to keep that strength within themselves without those key points that you said?
Okay, so you all talked about having mentors, having a supportive family. Without those things, what might be some other ways that you could encourage yourself and have some longevity in the profession? Attending events. Hold on.
A lot of free things that are out there, but again, trainings, volunteering somewhere. I know you don't have time, but volunteering for something that's your interest, because if it's your interest and something you like, you're more likely to do it than not with it. And recognizing that it is difficult, but making those little connections will pay off in the long run, because you never know who, like friending people on LinkedIn, friend me, I'll accept you.
I would say just be amenable to the idea that your mentor might not be in your exact field of work too, right? I think, so many times if you're an economic student, you want to go find someone who has a degree in economics to mentor you, but some of the lessons that you learn from mentorship can be extrapolated across functions, right? So your mentor might not necessarily be a social worker, at least for now, until you can find one, but if you can find someone that works in education or does something where some of the skills are transferable, then I think you can still perhaps find mentors, and it may not be exactly what you're looking for, right, in terms of profession, but some things that you can extrapolate.
And while you're searching for your mentor, remember your why. We all get into this field for a reason. Remember what that reason was to carry you on. You're passionate about this, I can tell, because you're asking the question. Always remember that, even on your hardest days. You prayed, or you wanted this for a reason.
Great question. And so I would echo what Mr. Powell is saying. Social work skills you can be trained in. A mentor speaks into you, speaks life into you. And so that does not have to be another social worker. You find that person that will speak life into you as you go through the challenges that you face, whatever profession you're in. All right, any other questions from the audience?
Yes, we have time for 2 more.
Okay, we got time for 2 more questions. So 1, 2, right here.
All right. 1 second.
Run, Megger, run with the mic. He's coming around. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. All right.
Okay, so my question is, what advice would you give someone to help navigate the difficulty in the hiring process?
So difficulty in hiring.
We all hire. Keep going.
Well, that's first point right there. Keep going. No, interviewing is like any other skill, though, right? Like the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And this is really uncomfortable. So I used to do this just like years ago, not with interviewing, but it's similar. When I started getting asked to speak at different events, and I hate doing this is wonderful, but like in general, like I hate doing these kind of things, right? And I would literally stand in front of my mirror and like just practice. It feels really nerdy, it feels really stupid, and you're probably gonna feel stupid when you do it. But it's a skill just like anything else that over time with repetition, right, time on task, you'll continue to get better at. And I think over time that shows up. So, 70% of interview questions are the same. Like, tell us about your skills, tell us why you want us to hire you, tell us, your strengths and weaknesses. You can rehearse that, right? And I would encourage people to get comfortable doing that, even in a space that might be uncomfortable doing it, like looking at yourself in the mirror.
One of the things that's out there that's, what's that word? Selecting people is AI. So it's being aware if your resume is being read by AI, making sure you're reading whatever the opening is, that it matches in some way with AI. I think it's also, unfortunately, is knowing somebody. So it's, again, making those connections, because you never know who knows who with it. I think it's also, even when you're frustrated, taking a step back from it and finding energy to keep going, because you never know when it's going to be that one. And so if you go into something that you already have the wrong face for, then you're giving out the wrong energy. So really look at your energy that you're giving, but finding those connections and meeting people, talking with people, because you never know who knows who.
One last thing, prepare for an interview as if you would prepare for a test. When I was interviewing, I would have 3 to 4 pages of typed questions with my answers already ready to go. So when I was more confident in my answers, and I was more, I knew all about the company. Research the company. You know that's going to be question number 1 or number 2. What do you know about such and such company? Have an answer.
Great insights. Mr. Powell, I do not believe that you hate these. We cannot tell that by tonight. You have looked like you enjoyed yourself. All right, last question. Ms. Paris.
What was like one of the toughest things that y'all dealt with in y'all's profession, like through experience?
What was one of the toughest things you all have dealt with as a social worker? One, not one, because I know there probably have been many.
Managing people. That's tough.
I've had and I'm gonna use the word opportunity here, to run a few different organizations, and in the first 2 cases, we were not financially in the greatest position from the time I walked in the door. So having to look at people and get rid of people and tell them they don't have a job here anymore, based on nothing they did wrong, it almost made me leave this work. I will tell you that. That has been by far the most difficult, and hopefully won't happen again, but to this point, it's been the most difficult thing I've had to deal with in my career.
I agree with all those, and I actually had this answer for a question that was on the paper. I think one of the most difficult things in my career was when we talk about being black in this profession. There was an issue going on with one of the agencies I work with a black client said that they were being treated wrong or different or whatever with it. And I never forget, I was there late one night, and I was like, what's that noise? And walked into a room where there were 8 white managers and wondered why I wasn't at the table. And I'll never forget that, how it felt that you already made a judgment on me without asking me, and I wasn't at the table. So that's why I said, who's gonna talk for you when you're not at the table?
All right, everybody, that is it. So let's give our panelists one final round of applause. Great job. Thank you all for attending. All right, so if you guys haven't found the QR code by now, it's probably somewhere around the room. All right, thank y'all for attending. We appreciate it. Don't let it be the last time you come to the School of Social Work. There you go.
All right, that's a wrap. Yep.